What is it like to discover you're autistic when you're in your 30s? I'm going to talk to you today about my experience of that, because I was diagnosed with autism aged 35, and it was something that kind of blew my mind, if I'm perfectly honest. So what is it like to be diagnosed with autism at that stage in life? Okay, for one thing, it was a massive relief because it made so much sense of so many of the things I was really struggling with up to that point. It made me suddenly understand myself better, and it helped me to find a kind of people who were like me and who identified with some of the issues I was facing. From a kind of practical and medical point of view, it was also really important part for me in terms of me getting better, because I was struggling really hard with anorexia, and I was not making progress in inpatient care because I was being treated in a typical way, and I was atypical because I was autistic and anorexic. As an aside, I am now working with the Maudsley with a fantastic team to look at developing a new care pathway for adults with both anorexia and autism, and it's very exciting. Anyway, that's a whole nother thing. But yeah, so it was helpful. It helped me to get better because we started treating my anorexia differently, and I suddenly was able to make progress, which was fantastic. Helped me make sense of myself. But it was also a bit of a crushing blow, if I'm honest. And I've come more to accepting it now. And I definitely have come over time to recognise the strengths that come with autism. So lots of the things that I've achieved in my life have not been in spite of autism, but perhaps because of it. So I'm kind of very determined, very black and white, like very kind of honest and straight talking, which people have a lot of respect for most of the time. Sometimes they hate it. But yeah, there's lots of things about me which actually are, linked, I think, can be quite closely linked with the autism diagnosis, and some of those things I'm really grateful for. However, when at the point at which you imagine I got this diagnosis, I'm in inpatient care, I'm really poorly with anorexia, really struggling with my PTSD at that point, and like crippling anxiety and depression, all sorts going on, basically feeling not great. But I always had this kind of imagining of what the future was going to look like, and I was going to be this happy-go-lucky person who threw dinner parties and was super sociable, and suddenly all the things I'd found hard all my life would be things I would actively enjoy and seek out. And then I got this diagnosis and I realised, oh, so the reason I don't like doing all those things isn't because I'm ill right now, it's because of autism, at least in part, and that's not going to go away. I'm not going to be able to eat my way out of being autistic. That's slightly untrue a little bit, because actually for me, when I was really underweight, then the kind of autism traits were heightened. So like a starved brain mimics an autistic brain. So like a starved autistic brain, this is my theory, just my theory, but starved autistic brain is like, like an autistic brain on steroids, but sort of the opposite. Anyway, your thinking gets like super black and white, and you become much more like I'm not making a lot of sense, am I? Okay, so it was a blow because I realised I couldn't eat my way out of it, basically. So yeah, I knew with a lot of the other issues, I had to face my trauma and I needed to eat my way to a healthy weight. I wasn't going to be able to eat my way out of the autism, although eating and getting to a healthier weight did mean that I was more able to manage on a day-to-day basis. So when I was really underweight, for example, so I find it really difficult to manage like noisy environments and being around lots of people and that sort of thing. But I'm generally able in like day-to-day life to sort of mask that or manage it to a certain extent, as long as I build in rests and breaks and stuff. But when I was really underweight, I just couldn't handle really any of that. So I was not able to function anywhere near as normally. I don't really like the word normal, we're not meant to use it, are we? I wasn't able to like pass as neurotypical so easily, let's say. And whilst, I guess it's telling that whilst when I tell people who've known me a long time that I have autism, they're often kind of a bit perplexed and say, well, you'd never know, or you hide that well, or something similar. The people who had only known me for the duration of my illness, and particularly when I was very underweight, were like not at all surprised by the diagnosis, like not in the slightest, were not quite understanding why I had not pursued this avenue before. Okay, so those were some of the things. One of the things I found really hard about the label is that, like, autism's this massive spectrum. It's a spectrum. And so I have done lots of work throughout my adult life with schools and organisations who work with people with autism. And I have worked directly with some of those children and young people who are really heavily impacted by autism. And I obviously am not like that, and so it's hard for me to identify with the label because I kind of feel like I don't deserve it. It reminds me actually of when you are diagnosed as being anorexic, and actually the anorexic voice in your head always thinks you're not doing this well enough, and they say, oh well, you're not actually thin enough to be anorexic. And that's kind of how you feel, like however thin you are, you feel like you're not thin enough. And I feel like this, I'm not autistic enough to be autistic, which might sound strange, but that's just how I feel, and I'm just being honest about it. However, again, I have found that being open and honest about it has been quite helpful, because people think that the way that they see me is the way that I am, and what people don't necessarily realise, other than other people like me who are like, oh yeah, totally get this and we can share and that's great, but what people don't necessarily realise is how much hard work it takes for me just to do normal every day. So to be around you and to be normal in the way that you expect me to be, and to be kind of happy and sociable and all those things which everyone else does with consummate ease every day, takes a massive toll on me. Like, I'm a huge ball of anxiety and often anger by the ends of days like that. And the thing is that people only see the bit when you put your mask on and you're managing, and that's all good. What they don't see is the bit when you walk out at the end and you burst into tears, or you have a complete kind of meltdown or whatever. So people don't see that side of it. They only see the bit that you choose to show. And whose fault is that? That's my fault, because I choose to present in a certain way. And that's okay, because that's what's socially acceptable and that's what helps you get through life. But people don't then know the other bit, and so then when you say to them, oh, I've got a diagnosis of autism, and they say, oh, well, that doesn't seem very likely, and then you're like, yeah, you didn't see the hours when I wasn't with you. Well, yeah. Anyway, so that's tricky. It's a bit like, in fairness, so I also got diagnosed with, I have so many labels, don't you? I'm just one of those people who likes to collect labels. So I also got diagnosis of dyslexia when I was 19 and I was studying at Oxford University. Again, that felt quite an unlikely diagnosis at the time, because I was at Oxford University, but do you know what? You can be clever and dyslexic. It is perfectly possible. And that again was a situation where I have masked really well, and I have managed it through life. I mean, when I look back on school, there were certain things, like I always used to transpose numbers and make silly mistakes and stuff, but it wasn't like particularly immediately apparent. But when I went to university, then all my coping skills kind of got to a certain point and I literally like dropped off a cliff edge and failed, which perplexed everybody. And so yeah, we did the diagnosis and I came back as quite autistic, quite dyslexic, but had really good coping strategies. So again, I'd been able to mask it. So yeah, story of my life, hiding stuff. So what is it like to be an adult with autism? One of the great things has been, since having a label, I have learnt, and it's taken time. What are you doing, buddy? I've learnt to be a bit more forgiving of myself and to understand that some of the things I find hard, there's a reason why I find them hard, and actually I need to forgive myself that, and I need to build in downtime and break times, and I need to be a bit more demanding of the people around me in order to help them to help me. So for me, there's been a couple of big revelations around this. One has been like when I talk to people at events that I'm working at, for example, and I might say, I'm going to find it really hard to, do the whole day without a break, so I might need to leave at lunchtime, or can I eat my lunch somewhere separately, or that kind of thing. And I basically say, I'm autistic, so please can you accommodate me in X way. They are generally incredibly helpful. I say generally, no, everyone I've asked has been helpful. People don't know this about me unless I tell them, so I have to ask, but as long as I ask, people are hugely helpful. And the other thing is that like the mixture of like autism and anxiety and the fact that I have like quite good social awareness means I often like really beat myself up over conversations that have happened and they've been maybe slightly socially inappropriate, and I've realised that afterwards, that because I've been honest and just said what's in my head has come out of my mouth because that's how I am, but that's not how you should always be, in like to be so I'm really struggling with this. What am I trying to say? Basically, like, most of us like understand like social codes of conduct, and we're much better at not just saying without a filter what is in our head doesn't always come out of our mouths. That for me is more of an issue. I'm much more honest. A lot of people like that about me. Occasionally it gets me in hot water. Anxiety means that I go away afterwards and I like then realise, oh, actually I've done my calculation and the social script for that wasn't that I should have said X, I should have done something different, beat myself up about it, and will get really, really anxious about it. However, more recently, like really recently, I've discovered that if I drop that person a line, send them a text or something and say, I'm incredibly sorry, I'm replaying our conversation from earlier and I realised I said X. I didn't mean any offence by it. I'm autistic and sometimes I speak too honestly. Perhaps what I should have said was Y. And I've done that a couple of times, and you know what, people have been brilliant. Generally speaking, they've gone, that's fine, you didn't offend me at all. Yeah, other times they've gone, no, thanks for clarifying, it's not a problem and I'm glad to know that about you, kind of thing. Basically, what I'm learning, I've learned this many times over with many different diagnoses, is that talking and being honest with the people around me really helps. It helps me and it helps them to help me too. And so, yes, being open and honest about it is a good thing. I will maybe talk about this more another time. I've been asked like a lot to talk about autism lately, and sometimes I will mention it when I'm giving talks. I'll mention that I'm autistic, and quite often that's something that people pick up on, and I feel like people want me to kind of like be a bit of a role model or be like an inspiration or something for other people who are autistic, and I feel a little bit like I'm not ready for that role because I'm not really sure what it means for me yet. But if you're watching this and you're autistic too, or someone you care about is, then I would love to hear your thoughts, your comments, what you would want to know more about, because this is a new journey for me and I'm interested to learn more, and I'm sort of really interested to link with other people who have an interest here too, and let's learn together. God, I know some of you say you like my rambly videos, but I think this one like really took the biscuit, didn't it? So yeah, there we go. Autism. Buddy is still here, by the way, just in case you thought that he'd left. He is. Where are you, Buddy? Say hi. Okay, let's close the video with that cute shot of Buddy. Say bye-bye. Bye.